Hello, welcome to my third video. So I began with an introduction and then I did a review of Stargirl. For my third one, I decided to tell my favorite story of anything that has ever happened to me in my life. This was originally intended to be the concluding story in a one-man show I was going to do at the Winnipeg Fringe this year. However, the Winnipeg Fringe was canceled thanks to COVID, and the show was going to be called How I Wound Up in Russia with Six Machine Guns Pointed at Me. And that's the story that I'm going to tell you guys. But in the play, I was going to build up to it. I was going to talk about the history of my travels, traveling with my parents when I was a kid, and then backpacking around Europe, how I wound up tour directing for the first time, and then how I wound up getting a job as a tour director, and stories about all of that, eventually building to this tale. But that was for a theatrical piece. These are one-shot videos. Why would I save the best one for last? No, 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 no. I got to try and build a viewership here. So parenthetically, I'm going to say right now what I forgot to say at the end of the last two. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, sacrifice, remonstrate, whatever. Those things that you're supposed to do. Click them, because that's how I get monetized. And I want to get monetized, because who doesn't want to get monetized, really? Close parentheses. So, here we go. So I was working as a tour director for a company called, and I was leading a 56-day tour. It was modular, so some people were on it for the entire tour. A lot of people would do part of the tour, not the entire thing. So people would come and go. It began with a tour of Poland, and then we went up to Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, took a ferry across to Helsinki for Finland, and then the train from the Finland station across to St. Petersburg and Russia. So it was the first time I had been to any of those countries, actually, despite the fact that I was leading a tour. Tour directing was a bit like having your final exams in university every single night, because I would take the people around during the day. We always had local guides in any major location. I was responsible for paying the hotel rooms, setting up the meals, and also doing talks on the bus and guiding when we would go just to a town for lunch or something like that. I would walk them around the town, which I might not have ever been to. So that meant that the night before, I had to get on the internet and I had to do all the research and dig up Google Maps and look for certain key locations so that as I took the people on the walk through, I could pretend to recognize things and go like, oh yeah, and when we see the such and such building, that's when we turn left. Oh, there's that building, so we turn left there. See, I know this because I've been here before. Anyway, at some other point, I'll go into stuff about that. Poland, the best day in Poland was Auschwitz and the salt mines, which sounds like a horrific day, but it was actually kind of cool. Um, Lithuania, Latvia, Riga, beautiful, and I will talk about that. Estonia, wonderful. Tallinn looks like it looks like it was built by Disney, but it's real. Helsinki is beautiful. Finland is kind of bleak. It was very, very far north, and it was interesting on the train, taking the train across from Finland to St. Petersburg, from Helsinki to St. Petersburg. You're passing through farmland. And these farms do not look particularly prosperous as you go through the Finland side. And then you cross to the Russian side. And suddenly those Finnish farms, oh, they looked wonderful. Everything in Russia, it's hard not to feel sorry for them, you know. Everyone hates them and their country sucks. It's horrifically corrupt. They're all really, really unhappy, miserable people, it seems. For I should say for the most part, except they pretty much all were. One of the things I would try and do when we were going out dining was trying to make the waiters laugh. It was so difficult. They were not people who laughed very often. That being said, St. Petersburg is absolutely beautiful. It is built in a giant marsh. Um, Peter the Great actually imported a number of architects from the Netherlands to construct his city because of the similar landscape to like Amsterdam and such. Lots of canals, gray sky. And one of the things that Peter the Great also commanded was that the buildings in St. Petersburg be painted bright pastel colors. Well, bright pastel doesn't really work, but pastel colors of a variety of shades, pinks and oranges, greens and yellows and blues. It was very smart because when the sky is gray, these colors, they just pop. The buildings look so wonderful, and you don't really notice the gray because your eye is drawn by the color. So it is a much more visually appealing city than it would be if everything was gray concrete or brown brick. So my people quite liked it. There's pluses and minuses to traveling in Russia. One of the minuses is that unless you're going somewhere really nice that's designed for Western visitors, you don't get Western style bathrooms. And the not Western style bathroom consists of a hole in the ground, a smelly, smelly hole in the ground, surrounded by a kind of caved in area where things collect. It's very unpleasant. Um, a plus is that everywhere you go, you get a shot of vodka because Russians won't do anything unless they're drinking. And again, that was one of Peter the Great's um, rules. The Russian Museum and other places that he wanted his people to go gave out free shots of vodka because that was how he could get people to go to things like that. So the shot of vodka is pretty standard. I took my people to a tourist shop for some souvenir shopping, where you have these nice, flush toilet, super exotic, and of course they get their shot of vodka. Um, and we'd already been traveling for a bit, so they'd been to these before. Going up the stairs to this tourist shop, and I reach out my hand to the door, and my fingers are almost on the doorknob when it swings open, and this massive guy comes out. Twice the size of me, huge muscles, wearing camouflage gear and a balaclava with one of those little speaky things in his ear and microphone, holding this huge machine gun, and he points it right at me. And seriously, the barrel of the gun was no more than maybe that far away from my chest. And I looked at the gun and I looked at him, and I knew there was no way I was going to stop him from shooting me. And of course, he knew there was no way I could stop him from shooting me. I didn't want to run away because honestly, if I'm going to get shot, I would rather see that I'm going to get shot, know that I'm going to get shot, than have it be by surprise and get shot in the back. But there was no reason to shoot me. I'm harmless. So I decided the only thing I could really do was to convey how totally harmless I was. So I just smiled at him and I said, "Hello, how are you doing?" And I kept smiling and he stared at me and I just kind of, I think I might have said, "It's a really nice day out." And then he said something into his little microphone and he went and got in the van. And then one by one, 6 other guys came out, all dressed the same way, holding their machine guns, and they all pointed their guns at me. And I just kept smiling and nodding, saying hello to each one as they came out the door. By about the 4th person, I think, the not terribly intelligent part of my brain said, "You should get one to pose for a photo that way. That would be really cool." The sane part of my brain said, "Do not reach for your camera. Do not put your hands in your pockets. Do not pull a metal object out of your pockets." And I just listened to that part of my brain and just kept smiling and nodding. The last guy came out, they got in their van, and they drove off. I turned to my group to say, "Wow, wasn't that an experience? You got something to tell everyone when you go back home." But they were gone. Completely gone. Not one of them. I think there were about 20 people on this trip, plus our local guide. Nowhere in sight. I wasn't quite sure what to do. I started walking down the street, and looking around, trying to see where they might be. I found them a block and a half away in an alleyway, huddled, shaking, like, oh, and just kind of like, hi guys, how are you doing? Well, we're not going to go to that store because it's not open anymore. We're going to go somewhere else. I got this reputation for incredible bravery, which I thought was kind of silly because there wasn't really anything brave. I just wanted to know if I was going to get shot or not. I did find out from our local guide that those are the terrorist police, and they operate without any oversight. They are directly to Putin, and their job is to hunt out terrorist activity wherever they may find it. And coincidentally, wherever they may find it, tend to be places that get Western currency. So it's basically a protection scam, right? They go in and they say, give us your money, or we will hunt for it and accidentally trash your place. Uh, Apparently, people in the store that we were about to walk into didn't have enough money. So they didn't have a place, and I'm not sure they survived it. That's Russia. And that, I realized that very evening, as I was lying in my bed, that I was going to get to tell that story for the rest of my life. And hey, now I have immortalized it on YouTube. The Russia story. Like, share, subscribe, sacrifice, uh, whatever verb you feel like doing. Have a good one.